At the moment, a lot of talk around the cloud native space is sort of almost dominated by the Kubernetes word and the things around Kubernetes. And I think while Kubernetes is a really great way of managing lots of containers, there's a lot more to building cloud native applications than that. At the moment, our fixation is maybe on what I consider to be a sort of a lower level implementation detail. I think we're already starting to see it, but in 5 years from now, I think very few people will talk about Kubernetes. We'll all be working on sort of high levels of abstraction. I think things like function as a service platforms are showing us maybe what the future will look like. From a developer point of view, I just want to worry about my application. That's all I care about. And the platform I work on should handle the rest. So I think higher abstraction, closer to the application, less worrying about containers and all that sort of fun stuff, and being more productive, I think is kind of the way forward. From a microservices standpoint, the kind of things that are interesting at the moment are, to me at least, is how do things and like function as a service type platforms change how we think about how we build microservice architectures? Because they're really useful ways of deploying code, a function as a service platform, but a function is much smaller than what we traditionally think of as a microservice. So trying to work through those patterns, I think, is quite important. And I think if we can get those patterns right, we'll be able to get the most out of the best things out of microservices and the best thing out of fast platforms as well. But I think we're just going to need more time to explore what those platforms can do and the right ways of using those in those contexts. I think the other big thing is the shift towards maybe more real-time intelligence around data. So the challenge used to be all of my data is in one big database. Now I've broken it up amongst all these microservices. How do I get all that stuff together? Actually, all the streaming stuff that's happening is actually helping us move away from sort of batch-oriented world into a streaming real-time world. And microservices is actually really well set up for that. Single biggest obstacle, I think if I see the most common problem, what I see with organizations when they're trying to adopt a microservice architecture is a lack of clarity around what it is they're trying to achieve. A microservice architecture can help you do lots of different things, but you've kind of got to focus on what it is you're trying to do. If I'm thinking about taking an existing system and moving it to a microservice architecture, I'm going to do that in a very different way if my goal is I need to scale my application to handle more people than I am if it's about how do I reduce the cost of ownership or how do I ship my software more quickly. The way you take something and change it needs to be driven by certain forces. A lot of organizations have sort of said, we want microservices, right, now let's work out why we want microservices. Whereas the right way to say is, we've got a problem, there's something our current architecture doesn't let us do. Let's see if microservices can solve that. But alongside that, you've also got to be really honest with yourself and say, actually, could we solve these problems in a different way? Microservices should not be the default approach for all companies. They should be a choice, but a conscious choice. I think often a lot of the driver around cloud technologies and cloud native technologies as well, and sort of the cloud native way of thinking is often driven by technologists. And sometimes that can just be, I want to use some shiny tech. The challenge often is that you can't convince other people in your organization to want to make a change because there's no real sense of what's in it for them. And I don't mean that in a selfish sense, but like as a technologist, I might selfishly want to learn about, a new piece of technology. But if I can't explain why that's of benefit to the users of my software, then I can't be surprised that people aren't aligned behind that. I think for something like cloud native, the case is about actually, if we embrace these ideas, our customers, the people using our software, are going to be better off. And so you kind of got to put yourself in the mindset of your sort of people who aren't techies in your organization and think, what are the challenges they're seeing? And is the stuff that I'm thinking of going to solve those problems? And maybe cloud native isn't the answer, or maybe it is, but you've got to put it in those terms. I think you also really do need to educate yourself as well. If you're going to be trying to advocate for this technology inside your organization, I think you've got to be ready for the questions like, I don't want to put my data in somebody else's public cloud. Well, what does that mean? Can you talk about those arguments if you've read up on those things? So I think understanding how to advocate for something, understanding what benefits it might have for other people, that's kind of the key message here. It's basically, you've got to sell it. You've got to sell the idea. So I've got a new book coming out. It'll be coming out at the end of August, beginning of November time. That's called Monolith to Microservices. And it's all a book really about how do you take a monolithic system and break it apart. So lots of people are interested in microservice architectures, but most people don't have a microservice architecture. Most people have existing software that may have been built over 20, 30, 40 years. And so the problem is, how do you take this big sort of giant ball of mud often and move it towards a microservice architecture? And that book all looks at how you do that. So how do you prioritize the work? How do you slice the systems apart? How do you do that in an incremental fashion while kind of keeping the monolith alive and still being useful at the same time?